Absolutely. Food does matter.
Yes, it does. Yes, it does. And there's some information here on olive oil. And you know, you go to the store and there are rows and rows of olive oil.
There's lots of options for olive oil.
Yeah.
Or that you would think is olive oil, when it's really not what it says on the label.
It'll say blend, olive oil blend,
or it'll say extra virgin olive oil, and indeed it's not extra virgin olive oil.
Yeah.
Yes. So the olive oil is one of the most fraudulent foods out there because there's so much of it. There's really no adequate testing, or there's no mandated testing that you really can't understand what's in the bottle. And a lot of people don't understand olive oil, including Italians. A lot of Italians don't understand what high quality olive oil is. And of course there's a global demand for olive oil that can't keep up. So of course that also allows some fraudulent activity, because they know that they can pass things off to consumers that just have no idea what they're buying. And a lot of people, let's face it, buy based on price point.
You know, I'm guilty of that.
We're all guilty. We walk into the store and say, why would I pay $12 when I can pay $8 for something? It's the same thing. It's olive oil. It's extra virgin, and indeed, there's a reason why one's $8 and one's $12. I've been to Italy 3-4 times now, and I've been to places that actually make olive oil right there on the olive oil plantation, the farm, the olive oil farm, on the winery, the vineyard. It costs, for real olive oil production, fresh pressed olive oil, it costs about €5-6 to put it in a liter bottle.
Wow.
And so when you walk into the store and you buy a gallon for $20, there's something wrong with that equation.
I've done that. I've done it. And also, let me ask you this: you know, if you don't use it that often, or you're single, and you know you're not cooking all the time, does it go bad?
It goes bad.
Okay, I thought so.
It goes bad. So basically, olive oil or olives are it's a fruit.
It's a fruit.
Like a cherry. It's a stone. Olives are stone fruits.
Right.
And so what you're consuming is fresh pressed juice. And it's at its peak at the first week that it's pressed. And after that, it starts diminishing. So when you go into the store and you look at olive oil that's been sitting there for 6 months or a year, so it's unlike wine. It does not improve with age. It can actually turn rancid, it can oxidize, and it can be a detriment to your health. So there's olive oil has seasons. It's a seasonal crop. It gets pressed in the fall in the northern hemisphere. In the southern hemisphere, it gets pressed in the spring. So if you're really concerned about getting super fresh olive oil, you buy based upon the seasons of olive oil. And I've got to tell you, Italy's the last place you want to look for olive oil.
Yeah, you said that, and I'm surprised because everybody thinks, oh, you know, they're pressing olives over there.
Right. Everybody imagines Italy as the leader, and Italy does export the most amount of olive oil. They don't produce the most amount of olive oil. Spain is the leading producer. Italy has just jumped on the bandwagon of good marketing, and we all think there's an allure to Italian foods, which there is, but they can't keep up with the production of the worldwide demand for olive oil, so they have to source it from wherever they can get olive oil from, and it gets lined up in tankers, and it sits in the sea in tankers, and it comes from all parts of northern Africa, Spain, Greece. It comes from all over. And olive oil can change hands so many times. So when you buy a bottle of olive oil and there's a picture of an olive tree and somebody out there picking it, and that's probably the farthest thing that was happening.
Wow.
It gets picked by big machinery in some North African country on a huge plantation. It gets put in tankers. It gets shipped to Italy. So for example, Bertolli is the leading producer of extra virgin olive oil worldwide. They hold 8% of the market. If they own a couple dozen olive trees, that's it. And those olive trees are in their driveway in Milan as show. And that's basically what it is. It's just show to say, hey, you're pulling up to an olive oil company. So they have no idea if they're getting scammed from some guy in Africa or Spain where hazelnut oil is getting mixed in or sunflower oil is getting mixed in and cut. Typically, food can be fraudulent the higher the price tag it yields. An olive oil, for a gallon of olive oil, I mean, for good olive oil, you're going to pay $75 to $100, not the $20 that's in the store.
Wow.
So olive oil changes hands several different times, and it's hard to really trace where it's really coming from. So in the case of Bertolli, they're not on the farm. They're not seeing when it's getting pressed. They don't know when it's getting pressed. So they just have really no clue. to the true whereabouts of what's going to the bottle. Now they're going to test it and make sure that it does a flavor profile and this and that. And of course, there's testing, but there's not mandated testing. And if you go to the store, even the best brands out there, up to 50% of them have tested fraudulent. When Consumer Reports or when somebody comes in, an agency goes in and pulls off the shelves and tests. They pull them and they say, "Wow, this is not real extra virgin olive oil. It was cut with pomace oil. It was cut with hazelnut oil. It was flavored with chlorophyll or something else. Beta carotene. You flavor the oils with. You can dye them, and but people love olive oil because it could truly be a beneficial food. It is a fruit, like I said, a lot of polyphenols, a lot of health benefits. And the first rule of good olive oil, when you get it into your kitchen, is don't cook with it. A lot of people say, don't cook with it.
Okay.
If olive oil, so olive oil is, because it's a fresh pressed fruit juice, it immediately breaks down from heat, light, and oxygen. So as soon as you put it in a pan and turn heat on it, you're breaking down the good polyphenols. You're breaking down the health benefits of the oil, and you might as well be putting a cheaper oil into your saute pan.
Yeah. Wow, I didn't know that.
Yep, so do not cook with it. Olive oil should be a seasoning oil, a flavoring oil. After your dish is done, after you pull your steak off the grill and you put it on top of your potatoes or your rice or your pasta, then take good olive oil and sprinkle it.
Okay.
Drizzle it on top of it, and that's how you truly use olive oil.
Wonderful.
You sprinkle it on top of the food when it's done cooking.
So what do you cook with?
So we cook with sunflower oil. We cook with a local Hudson Valley produced, grown. The sunflower seeds are grown even as local as here as Kerhonkson. They're done in Poughkeepsie. And they source from several different farms in the Hudson Valley, and they cold press it.
Nice.
Which means there's no heat on it. It's expeller cold pressed. And when we order it, is when they actually press it and pack it and send it to us. We just got 4 tubs of it yesterday.
Wow.
So really an amazing product.
Yeah, yeah.
So, but you can use, if you're an average consumer, you want to get sunflower oil, the Hudson Valley cold press, you go to Adams.
I love
Mother
Adams.
Earth probably has it.
Yeah.
But if you really want, if you can't get access to that, what oil would you cook with? Well, that's a good question.
Canola?
Coconut oil is the best.
Coconut?
Coconut's the best, but of course if you're making an Italian dish,
You have that
it doesn't, the coconut oil doesn't go with Italian food. It goes with Indian food, with Thai food, with certain dishes. So I would pick a neutral flavored expeller pressed oil. Now canola oil, there's a lot of controversy on it, on the rapeseed plant, and why not to use it and how toxic it is. It's the most common oil used in restaurants, so canola oil. Sunflower, you can source another sunflower oil, safflower oil. You know, I've even used good organic expeller pressed soy oil before.
What kind of oil?
Soy.
Soy. Okay.
So, but you just want to avoid going to the store and just buying any old oil that's just sitting on the shelf there. You want to.
There's so many to choose from.
There's a lot to choose from. So there needs to be a lot of thought and some education put into buying, whether it's cooking oil or olive oil.
Well, that's good to know because I'm going to the store after this, so I'll have to stand there and.
So if you're looking for olive oil, keep in mind that olive oil has a 2-year shelf life on it.
2 years.
So if you're so if you want truly fresh olive oil, pick the one that's the farthest from 2 years out. And you know, if you really want to buy good olive oil, you go to an olive oil store where they'll actually taste you on the store.
Some over New Paltz.
They have one in New Paltz. They have one in Beacon. You can go to Fairway. And the bottles are open and they'll taste it. Now, unfortunately, the best olive oils are the most pungent, the most bitter, which people typically don't like that pungent and bitter. But that's where all the health properties are. That's the active health ingredients in the olive oil, is that pungent and bitter taste. So really, that's what you're looking for. But now that you know to sprinkle with it.
That's it. I was going to say, if you're not cooking with it, you're using it in dressings and sprinkling it over a dish once it's cooked.
It's a different thing. And there's 7 different thousand varietals of olives, just like wine. So you can be creative. You don't have to buy the same oil over and over again. You can have 3 or 4 bottles, small bottles in your refrigerator, and based upon the dish you're serving, pull out an oil that complements that specific dish. Olive oil can be a lot of fun.
Yes, yeah, good to know. I see you have pages of information, and you mentioned a website earlier called
extravirginity.com. It's a great source. He's the one who wrote the book Extra Virginity, the fraudulent or scandalous allure of olive oil, and he lays it all out with lots of studies and lots of real stories, court cases, and everything where people are being prosecuted, big companies being prosecuted in Italy for fraudulent olive oil that were here just buying on the market and thinking that it's really
Right,
extra virgin
right.
olive oil. When in fact, now if you have an allergy to hazelnuts or something, this could prove
Yeah,
severe
yeah.
consequences for somebody.
Do they have as stringent controls over there as we do here?
So it
Do they have
depends.
the list on there? I don't even
So
know.
Italy has a lot of very stringent controls on certain foods.
Uh-huh.
They have a consortium, just like Greece and just like Italy, just like, I'm sorry, like Spain. So if you see the consortium logos on things, it means that it's being inspected by their agency to prove that it's a whole natural or tradition-based food. For example, like olive oil from Modena. I'm sorry, balsamic vinegar. There we go, Marcus. Balsamic vinegar
called
from
after
Modena has to have the seal on it. If it doesn't have the seal on it, it means it was made anywhere, and they weren't following the traditional
guidelines.
methods. They can be adding caramel color. They can be doing whatever. You can buy really balsamic vinegar from any country can produce balsamic vinegar, but the true balsamic can only come from Modena, from Italy, and the neighboring city where Viola is, and they have to have the stamp on it. If you're buying prosciutto di Parma, it has to have the consortium stamp. You can buy prosciutto from anywhere, but if it doesn't have the consortium stamp, so the consortium comes in and regulates the food. They're a government arm of the government arm that comes in and really and I've met with the inspectors. I met with the balsamic inspector, and he did our tour with us in Italy, and he explained to us all the laws and all the intricate laws that go into making an authentic Italian food. And that part of Italy in Modena, there's 33 controlled foods that they produce out of Modena, Parma, Viola, right there in that little small area. But any part of Italy has like a basic sausage or a cheese, whether it's Reggiano or Grana, that the consortium,
I love the bread there.
that the consortium is actually regulating very closely. So yes, they do have a lot of strict regulations, but again, there's probably a lot of things that are happening that aren't so strict if they don't have that consortium stamp on them.
Yeah. Well, this is interesting. Who knew there were so many different aspects of olive oil? And check it out, folks. ExtraVirginity.com.
ExtraVirginity.com is a great resource guide there.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of companies that he lists there that you can buy online, like Zingerman's, which is a great company that imports a lot. Zingerman's, he lists Fairway. But really, go try some local stores. Peter's Market, they have some good olive oil there. Try one of the health food stores. They have good stuff. But if you can go to a place where you can taste, that's key. Taste
Like
and
Fairway,
taste
which we have
Fairway.
in Falls.
Go to New Paul's Peak and taste and decide what you like and buy based what you like.
Marcus is telling us about the different aspects of olive oil that I never considered. And a wonderful website, extravirginity.com. I love that name, extravirginity.com. And things to think about when you're buying olive oil.
A lot of things to think about. It can be confusing.
Yeah.
It can be very confusing. So
there's
there's a few people that actually ask me to buy them olive oil, so I buy them in organic. Chilean olive oil is one of my favorites. So olive oil comes from, I think when people buy olive oil, they have to get past Italy and Greece and Spain, even though there's some great olive oil coming out of these areas. So for example, in Apulia has, which is southern Italy, where Bari is, they have an average, it's some mind-boggling thing that he lists on extravirginity.com. There's like 5 or 10 olive trees per person based upon the population there. There's like 6 million olive trees in Apulia, some ridiculous number. But again, it's all led by the consumer, what the consumer is willing to pay for olive oil, which means that these companies, these small guys, these small producers just can't get their product out there and sell it. So they either have to forfeit olive oil production altogether, switch to something else, or be forced to sell it to a co-op, or sell it off to whoever will buy their olive oil, as opposed to marketing their family brand and getting what the real value is. So here's the one key that for buying olive oil: avoid Italy, avoid Greece, avoid Spain. Look to California. California has some great olive oil producers. The whole industry is doing it correctly. There's California Mission, there's Corto olive oil. There's some really great producers out there. The one thing about them is they cultivate a different type of olive tree. They're shorter trees, so they can actually harvest by machine which brings the cost down significantly. It's still extra virgin, it's high quality, but they have a machine that goes through the rows, and it's an over-the-top machine that can go on top of the olive trees. When you picture an olive grove, you picture these tall trees, which a machine can't get on top. In California, that's different. In Australia, they have this system down so pat that they can extract, press the olive juice within an hour of picking. The olive, at the end of the row, they can do it.
Whoa.
So it's super fresh, it's packed, very efficient, and the same thing with Chile. So those are the three countries or regions: California, Chile, and Australia. If you want to know if you want to have a better chance of getting the real deal, those are the three countries that you look in. And once you can start experimenting and going to a store and taste, then venture into Italy. Find the story out of the brand, of the producer. Make sure that the producer is growing the olives, pressing them themselves, and packing it themselves. It's not getting shipped off to a big co-op or that they're selling it to a big brand. In the case of Bertoli, which doesn't own a tree.